Hello everyone. I'm a tree planter. I've been planting trees for the past 8 years. My current total is just under 1.3 million trees. I have planted in Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, and BC. Ask me anything. 1,300,000 trees in 8 years. Assuming a maximum of 365 working days per year, with an 8-hour a day. That's 428 trees a day. My question is, how did you work out this number? What exactly is involved in planting a tree? 428 trees is lowballing. Gotta be putting in at least 2,000 to make any money on most contracts. Especially since you don't really work in winters. Here's an example. The guys who are fast do a tree every 3 to 5 seconds in easy terrain. Shovel in one hand, tree in the other. One drive of the shovel opens up a hole, tree goes in, foot closes earth back over the hole. Walk a few steps and repeat. They plant trees, but it's not seeds or automation. It's seedlings. They are tiny trees that are just starting. I am being paid on by the tree. I track how many trees I plant every day. On my payroll it gives me a tree total, and companies will give you a season total. This is one of our cedars, so you have an idea for the tree size. You can plant a ton of these things in a day if your back holds out. What are your experiences with wildlife while tree planting? Here's one of my bear stories. Had to poop badly. So I started running to the tree line, TP in hand. All of the sudden I see 2 cubs scurry up a tree and a huge black bear rear up on its hind legs and eye me down. I start screaming to let it know I'm there. As I slowly back away, the guy 100 meters away hears me and tells me to make more noise. So all I can think of is trash talk, so I start swearing at it and generally talking shit. By this time I've grabbed a large stick, like that's going to do anything, and 2 people are with me. We try and chase the mama bear away, but her cubs won't leave the tree they're hiding in. As we continue to chase her away, we end up between her and her cubs. Very stupid and very bad place to be, so she turns around and starts back towards us. We back away and backup arrives with a gun. They shoot a couple rounds past the trees to get the cubs out, but they won't budge. One guy with an axe chops down the tree the cubs are hiding in. When it falls on, cub runs to the mom. But the other runs up another tree. After chopping the second one down, it tries running up a third tree. To which the guy grabs the cub by the scruff of its neck, and it makes a sound that I didn't know bears can make. It kinda sounded like a Tasmanian devil. And walks towards the mom with the cub in hand, lets the cub go. It runs to its mom and the family makes its way off into the forest. I've heard better, but that's my story. What is the special care taken to assure the right kinds of trees are planted in certain areas? We are given specs on what species to plant where. Spruce in wet areas. White pine is shade tolerant. Fir likes high dry points. Larch like to be buried under a stump when the foreman isn't looking. What's a story about the weirdest person you've ever worked with planting trees? I planted with an awesome guy that went crazy and had to go home. But while he was there, I learned a ton from him. He was incredibly inventive and always had a unique solution for everything. For instance, we are supposed to carry around a plot cord, which we use to measure our tree density. Planters are taught to stop and take a plot periodically to see if their density is on track. This guy just looped the cord around his ankle and let it trail behind him. He would glance back from time to time and count the number of trees that fell along the length of the cord, and that's how he checked his own density. He combined his hard hat with a sombrero to keep cool. He made sandals out of duct tape and cardboard from the tree boxes. When there was no shade available, he kept his water jug cool by soaking a handkerchief in a puddle and then leaving it on top. The sun would have to heat up the fabric and evaporate the water before it could significantly warm the jug underneath. Something happened to him mid-season, and he snapped. The isolation got to him. And whenever he tried to get out of the van in the morning, he would literally collapse in a fit of anxiety. How are the living conditions? Living conditions are very great if your company is well organized. Here at Celtics the camps are always up to date. And we have great cooks. So we sleep in campers or tents. But I also lived in motels many times. Describe your worst/most grueling contract. My most grueling contract would have to be my rookie season. In a camp with 100 rookies and 10 vets in northern Ontario, Nikina to be exact, it rained day in and day out. And we had no dry tent. So we were sleeping in wet clothes to try and dry them out overnight. It rained to the point our 6 holes in the center of camp overflowed while we were at work. And flooded people's tents with ton of water. Not mine, thank God. And mosquitoes and black flies as thick as fog that you're inhaling and blowing out of your nose all the day. Anyways, the moral was just super low, but camp life saved it for me after making it through that. However, I knew I would never quit. So how much money do you get paid for being awesome and planting all these trees? And also, how did you get into the tree planting business? I've been paid anywhere from 6.7 cents to $1.05 for a tree. It all depends on the contract specs, your location, and the land you are planting. An average day is $300 to $500. I got into it like many others Canadians as a summer job during university. Replant.ca is a good source of job links. Now I plant 8 months of the year. I hear that the pay is based on the amount of trees you can plant. How many trees can you plant in an hour? Is there a special technique for planting trees quickly? Trees per hour depends on the land. A good guideline is to do around 1 bag per hour, which is anything from 200 to 500. Depending on the land, tree, size, and planter. There are a lot of different techniques for speed. Every planter really has their own personal style. Everything from how you make your holes, to how you back up, to if you wear gloves or duct tape. Every planter is different. What's your favorite tree? Sitka spruce or red cedar? I hear that tree planting is one of the toughest jobs and has a high injury rate. I hear that as much as 80% of all planters experience bad injuries. Especially repeated motion injuries, and hand/finger injuries. Are the reports true? If so, how do you avoid injuring yourself and keeping your body in good condition? There is considerable amount of injuries, but I wouldn't say this much. Maybe around 10 to 15%. Because our body get used to the conditions. I myself have a wrist defect now. What kind of trees are you planting? Are you doing reforestation? Or just building windbreaker and the like? In Canada, you would most often be planting spruce, Doug fir and pine. You would work for a planting or silviculture company. That company bids on planting contracts at the start of the year. And that determines where your company will plant and what you'll get paid. The planting is for blocks that have already been logged. How much does that pack weigh? And how many miles would you say you walk in a day? The pack weighs around 50 pounds including a liter of water in your backpack. The pods themselves weigh about 4 ounces. Why would you carry water in your backpack? I always carried water in my backpack for emergencies, but tried not to drink until I got back to my cache. Too many times I'd get relocated to some new piece of land and either my stuff was already taken there for me, or I didn't have time to go back and pick it up and they would bring it to me later. Having the water bottle in the backpack probably saved me a few times. How do your employers ensure that workers' total tree count per shift is accurate? And that they are not artificially inflated to make some extra bucks? For that matter, how do they verify that every sapling is planted successfully, and not haphazardly dropped onto the ground? And what are the acceptable rates of tree damage that would leave a sapling unable to survive? In the morning, exact numbers of trees are taken before going to work. So you would have, for example, 30 boxes of pine with 21 bundles of 20 trees. So 12,600 trees. At the end of the day you do a count of how many bundles remain and work out the difference, then you compare the difference to your planter's reported numbers. If there is a difference, there are a couple of ways to figure out who is doing it. You can shuffle around the crews and see if the problem follows anyone in particular. This is separate from a related problem where people report accurately how many trees they take out to the block, but instead of planting them, they wait until they are alone and then bury a select amount. To catch people doing this, you pretty much have to just spy on people while they work. It can also become apparent if you have planted a piece to a pre-calculated density with a pre-calculated number of trees and there is still space unplanted. In this case, someone might be over-reporting how much they planted. In my experience, those density and area numbers were unreliable, so I'm not sure if that is an effective way to catch people. I should add that it is usually fairly easy to tell if someone is fudging their numbers. Everyone works together all day long. Even if someone might be out of sight for a little bit. You get a sense for how fast everyone works, and will know if they all of a sudden are planting more than you without physically planting faster than you out on the block. About tree quality. Group managers were responsible for checking quality. So for every block we worked there are a certain amounts of plots that needed to be taken. You take a 4-meter cord, stake a point, and then inspect every tree within the radius of that cord from the central point. You check for spacing, species mixture, and individual quality. Then the manager can identify which planter is doing shitty work and go yell at them. I'm not sure what our exact requirements were, but I think it was around 95 to 98% had to be acceptable quality trees,